You're a great guy, James, but I need someone who can match my lifestyle ambitions. You're just not man enough for where I'm going. The text arrived at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, while I was reviewing quarterly reports for my property management portfolio. My name is James Wick, 35 years old, senior software architect at Nexus Technologies, and until that moment, Emma Stone's boyfriend of 8 months. I read the message twice, set my phone face down on the stack of rental agreements I'd been signing, and typed back one word: understood. Then I returned to approving the new tenant applications for the Meridian, my luxury development downtown. Emma had no idea I owned it. I wasn't surprised by her text. I'd seen this coming for weeks, maybe months. The subtle comments about my 2018 Honda Civic, the way she'd introduced me as her friend at social events, the increasingly frequent mentions of her co-workers' wealthy boyfriends. What Emma didn't know, what I deliberately never told her, was that I was worth $8.2 million. The Honda wasn't because I couldn't afford better. The modest two-bedroom apartment in Riverside wasn't my only option. The simple clothes and regular restaurants weren't budget constraints. They were choices. We met at David Kim's barbecue last spring. David was my financial advisor and old college roommate, and Emma worked in marketing for Lux Brand Collective, some high-end fashion company downtown. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed genuinely interested in my work developing cybersecurity systems. For the first few months, everything felt natural. She laughed at my jokes, enjoyed the hiking trails I suggested, seemed content with the quiet dinners at neighborhood places I preferred. I thought I'd found someone who valued substance over flash. The shift started around month 4. Emma began making comments about upgrading our lifestyle. She'd scroll through Instagram showing me photos of her friends at expensive restaurants, designer shopping trips, weekend getaways to wine country. Sarah's boyfriend took her to Nobu for their 6-month anniversary. She'd say, "Not quite looking at me." And Maya's guy just surprised her with a weekend in Napa. I'd nod and suggest we try that new Italian place on 5th Street, which was excellent but not Instagram-worthy apparently. What Emma didn't understand was that I could have taken her anywhere she wanted. The $2.3 million of my investment portfolio came primarily from early stock options at Nexus Technologies, where I'd been employee number 47 when we were still operating out a converted warehouse. My real estate holdings generated another $1.8 million in equity across 12 properties throughout the metro area. The modest apartment I lived in wasn't because I couldn't afford the Meridian's penthouse. It was because a 15-minute commute to work mattered more to me than granite countertops and city views. My father taught me early that wealth was a tool, not an identity. He'd built a construction business from nothing, driving the same pickup truck for 20 years, even after he could afford a fleet of luxury vehicles. "Son," he'd say, "the moment you start needing expensive things to feel good about yourself, you've lost something important." After he died when I was 28, I inherited his business philosophy along with his modest estate. I sold the construction company, but kept his values. 6 months ago, Emma started working late more frequently, always with the same group of colleagues from her marketing department. She'd come home with stories about their dinner meetings at places like 11 Madison Park and Le Bernardin, venues I knew cost more per meal than most people spend on groceries in a month. "It's just business networking," she'd explain, but her eyes would light up describing the wine selections and tasting menus in ways they never did when talking about our Friday pizza traditions. The Instagram posts began changing too. Fewer photos of us together, more shots of her alone at upscale venues with captions about living your best life and knowing your worth. Her friend group evolved from a mixed crowd of teachers, nurses, and office workers we'd originally socialized with to an increasingly homogeneous collection of finance bros, real estate agents, and social media influencers. People who measure success by visible consumption and spoke in hashtags. 3 months ago, I noticed Emma had created a Pinterest board called Future Home Goals. Every pin featured multimillion-dollar mansions, infinity pools, wine cellars, and walk-in closets larger than most apartments. She'd scroll through it during our Netflix evenings, sighing occasionally. "Someday," she'd murmur, not specifying when or how these dreams might materialize. I could have told her I already owned properties worth more than half the homes she was pinning, but something held me back. Maybe it was curiosity about who she really was beneath the surface, or maybe I already suspected the answer. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago at Marcus Chen's birthday party. Marcus was one of Emma's new friends, a day trader who drove a leased Lamborghini and wore Rolex watches he financed through credit cards. Emma had insisted we attend, spending $300 on a new dress for the occasion, and suggested I buy something more appropriate than my usual button-down and khakis. The party was at some rooftop bar downtown, where cocktails cost $18, and the music was too loud for actual conversation. I watched Emma transform that night. Around Marcus and his circle, she became someone I barely recognized. Louder, more animated, laughing at jokes that weren't funny and name-dropping brands like they were personal friends. When Marcus asked what I did for work, Emma answered before I could. "James is in IT," she said dismissively, already turning toward someone more interesting. Not software architecture, not cybersecurity development, just IT. Like I fix printers for a living. Later that night, walking in my Honda while Marcus revved his Lamborghini for effect, Emma was quiet. Finally, she spoke. "Do you ever think about what you want from life, James? Like, really want?" I told her I was pretty content with what I had. "That's the problem," she replied. "I'm not." I started making preparations that week. Not because I planned to end things, but because I recognized a pattern. I'd seen it before with college friends who dated women obsessed with lifestyle inflation, watched good relationships crumble under the weight of manufactured inadequacy. I secured my financial documents, updated my property management protocols, and made sure my assets were properly protected. It wasn't paranoia, just prudence. The luxury apartment hunt began 10 days ago. Emma started browsing listings during lunch breaks, sending me photos of places with $4,000 monthly rents and marble everything. "If we move in together," she'd suggest carefully, "we could afford something really nice." I'd agree they looked nice while doing quick mental math on what she thought I could contribute versus what these places actually cost. Emma was making $52,000 annually at Lux Brand Collective. Even combined with my official salary, we couldn't afford the places she was considering. She was either financially illiterate or expecting me to reveal hidden resources. 3 days ago, she toured the Meridian. I knew because Sarah Rodriguez, my property management company director, called about an interesting application. "Young couple looked at the corner unit today," she said. The woman seemed very excited, but there might be some financial qualification issues. Background checks are pending. I asked her to follow standard procedures and let me know the results. I didn't mention that I knew the applicant personally. That evening, Emma was more animated than I'd seen her in weeks. "James, I found it," she announced, showing me photos on her phone. The perfect apartment. It's in this amazing building called the Meridian downtown. Rooftop deck, fitness center, concierge service. And the apartment itself. She swiped through photos I'd seen during the development planning phase 3 years ago. Floor-to-ceiling windows, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. It's exactly what I've been dreaming about. I asked about the rent. $3,800 a month, she said casually, as if this were a reasonable figure for someone making her salary. But split between us, that's only $1,900 each. Totally doable. I nodded and asked about the application process. "Oh, I'm handling all that," she said quickly. "I've got this great new friend who's helping me with the financial stuff. Marcus knows all about real estate and luxury living. Marcus Chun, the day trader with a Lamborghini and expensive watches. I'd done some casual research after the birthday party, the kind of background checking that comes naturally when you spent years in cybersecurity. Marcus's LinkedIn showed a history of job hopping between small trading firms, each stint lasting less than 18 months. His social media displayed a lifestyle that didn't match his reported income. Either he was exceptional at day trading, or he was leveraging himself into dangerous territory. Yesterday morning brought clarity. Sarah called with the background check results. "The male applicant's credit report is concerning," she said diplomatically. "Debt-to-income ratio well above our standards, multiple max credit cards, recent late payments. The female applicant qualifies individually, but not for the unit she wants. I asked about their reaction to the news. Haven't told them yet. Standard procedure is to send a formal rejection letter outlining the specific issues. That afternoon, I received a call from Emma. She was crying, which was unusual for her. James, something terrible happened. The Meridian rejected our application, and they won't even tell us why. This is discrimination, I know it. Marcus says luxury buildings sometimes have prejudices against young couples. I asked what Marcus planned to do about it. He's calling his lawyer, she said. This isn't right. We're qualified tenants with good jobs and references. I suggested she might want to review the rejection letter carefully, as landlords were legally required to specify reason for denial. There was a long pause. They mentioned something about credit issues, she admitted quietly. But Marcus says that's just an excuse. His credit is fine. I offered to help her understand the rental market better. Perhaps look at other options more aligned with her budget. My budget is fine, she snapped. I just need to find a landlord who isn't stuck in the past. That evening, Emma arrived at my apartment with a bottle of wine and what I recognized as her serious conversation expression. We'd been through this before when she wanted to discuss moving in together, meeting her parents, or upgrading our vacation plans. She poured 2 glasses, sat down across from me, and launched into a speech she clearly rehearsed. James, I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about what I want from life, about where I see myself in 5 years. The wine remained untouched as she continued. You're a wonderful person. You're kind, reliable, smart, and any woman would be lucky to have you. I recognized this preamble pattern from previous relationships and prepared myself for what was coming. But I've realized that we want different things. I have ambitions, goals, dreams that require a certain level of lifestyle and success. She gestured around my apartment, taking in the second-hand furniture, basic kitchen appliances, and general absence of luxury items. This is comfortable for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I need more. I need someone who can match my energy, my drive, my vision for what life could be. I asked what specifically she meant. I mean someone who doesn't drive a Honda Civic, like they're still in college. Someone with actual ambition and success, not just a job in IT support. I corrected her gently that I was a software architect, not IT support. Whatever, she said dismissively. The point is, I need someone who can provide the lifestyle I deserve. Someone who takes me to real restaurants, wears clothes that don't come from Target, drives a car that makes a statement. I asked if she'd been unhappy with our relationship. Not unhappy, she said carefully. Just limited. My friends are embarrassed to be seen with us. James. When Sarah talked about her boyfriend's Tesla, or Maya shows offer designer handbags, what am I supposed to say? That my boyfriend thinks Applebee's is fine dining. The irony was almost overwhelming. Emma was breaking up with me because I wasn't wealthy enough, while sitting in the apartment of someone who could buy Tesla showrooms without affecting his monthly budget. Because I preferred practical cars, while owning a parking garage full of luxury vehicles through my rental properties. Because I didn't flash expensive items, while having more money in investments than she'd see in a lifetime of marketing salaries. I think you deserve someone who shares your values, I said carefully. Someone who wants the same things you want. Emma nodded eagerly, apparently relieved I wasn't fighting her decision. Exactly. And I think I've found that person. She didn't name Marcus directly, but the implication was clear. He's ambitious, successful, knows how to live well. He's everything I need in a partner. I asked if she was happy. Happier than I've been in months, she said. I feel like I'm finally moving toward a life I'm supposed to have instead of settling for less. I nodded and wished her well, meant it sincerely. You're not angry? She asked, seeming surprised. No, I replied. I want you to be happy. If this is what makes you happy, then it's the right choice. Emma left that night with her spare key and the few items she'd accumulated at my place over 8 months. No drama, no argument, just a clean ending to something that had been slowly dissolving anyway. I poured myself a glass of the wine she'd brought, sat on my second-hand couch, and pulled up the property management reports on my laptop. The Meridian had 3 units available next month, all in the price range Emma had been considering. All of them would require credit approval that Marcus Chun couldn't possibly pass. The next morning brought Emma's text about not being man enough for her lifestyle. I finished my coffee, responded with understood, and called Sarah Rodriguez to check on the rental market downtown. Business was good. The luxury market was tight, and quality tenants were hard to find. Emma would discover that soon enough. My phone buzzed with notifications from Emma's Instagram, photos from last night's dinner at some expensive steakhouse, Marcus's hand visible in the frame, wearing what looked like a Rolex Submariner. The caption read, "Finally dating someone who knows how to treat a lady right. Know your worth and never settle for less. Hashtag level up, hashtag living my best life, hashtag success." 43 likes and counting from her new friend group, all celebrating her upgrade to a man who could afford proper restaurants and luxury accessories. I closed Instagram, opened my investment portfolio app, and checked the morning numbers. Tech stocks were up, real estate values holding steady, dividend payments arriving on schedule. My net worth had increased by $1,847 overnight through normal market appreciation, more than Emma made in a month, earned while I slept. I smiled slightly, finished my coffee, and headed to work in my Honda Civic. It was going to be an interesting few weeks. 2 weeks after Emma's text about not being man enough, I received the call I'd been expecting. Sarah Rodriguez from Meridian Property Management sounded frustrated. "Mr. Wick, we have a situation with the rejected applicants for Unit 1847. The woman has been calling daily demanding explanations, and now she's claiming discrimination. She wants to speak with the building owner directly." I asked Sarah to follow standard procedures and document everything. What I didn't tell her was that I'd been monitoring Emma's social media closely, watching her new lifestyle unfold in real time. The Instagram posts had accelerated dramatically. Emma and Marcus at rooftop bars, designer shopping trips, weekend getaways to wine country that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The captions grew increasingly elaborate. "When your man knows how to spoil you properly, and this is what happens when you stop settling for mediocrity." Each post garnered dozens of likes from her new circle of friends, all celebrating her apparent upgrade in lifestyle and partner quality. What Emma's followers couldn't see were the details I was noticing. Marcus's Rolex appeared in photos but disappeared between dates. The luxury car showed different license plates in different posts, suggesting multiple vehicles or short-term rentals. The expensive restaurants were always photographed from angles that didn't show the full dining room, and Marcus never appeared to be paying the bills directly in any shots. As someone who'd built wealth slowly and deliberately, I recognized the signs of financial performance art. Sarah called again 3 days later with an update. The male applicant, Marcus Chun, came in personally this time. Very aggressive, demanded to know specific reasons for rejection. When I cited credit history and debt-to-income ratios, he became hostile, started talking about lawyers and discrimination lawsuits. I asked if he provided any additional financial documentation. He offered to pay 6 months up front in cash, Sarah said. But when I asked for bank statements proving liquid assets, he couldn't produce them, said his money was tied up in trading accounts and crypto investments. That evening, I drove past a Meridian during what I knew was Emma's usual dinner time. Marcus's Lamborghini was parked in the visitor spots, and I could see them through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the lobby restaurant. Emma wore a dress I'd never seen before, something that probably cost more than our typical monthly entertainment budget. Marcus gestured expansively while talking, the kind of animated conversation that suggested he was selling something, possibly himself. My phone buzzed with a text from David Kim, my financial advisor, and the friend who'd introduced it to Emma. Heard through Sarah Mitchell that you and Emma split. Sorry, man. Also heard she's dating Marcus Chin now. You know anything about that guy? I replied that I knew of him, but not much detail. David's response came quickly. Ran into Tom Harrison at the gym. He used to work with Marcus at Sterling Trading. Says the guy's been living on borrowed time financially. Multiple credit cards, margin calls, the works. Thought you should know. The next morning brought an unexpected development. Sarah called with genuine concern in her voice. "Mr. Wick, I need to report something unusual. The woman from the rejected application, Emma Stone, showed up here last night around 11 p.m. She somehow got past building security and was taking photos of the lobby and amenities. Security footage shows her trying door handles on multiple units. I asked if she contacted anyone else in the building. That's the strange part. She kept mentioning that she knew the building owner personally and that there had been some kind of mistake with her application. I felt a cold recognition settle in my stomach. Emma had never asked about my property investments directly, but she'd seen the occasional documents on my desk, heard phone calls with Sarah about building maintenance and tenant issues. If she'd started putting pieces together, if she'd somehow discovered my connection to the Meridian, this situation was about to become significantly more complicated. That afternoon, I decided to take a personal interest in Emma's housing search. I called Sarah and arranged to be present for any future interactions with the rejected applicants, ostensibly to ensure proper protocols were being followed. It's unusual for ownership to get directly involved, Sarah noted. But given their behavior, I understand concern. Should I schedule a meeting if they request another showing? Before I could answer, Sarah's assistant knocked on her office door. Ms. Rodriguez, there's a Marcus Chun here demanding to speak with you about Unit 1847. He's with the same woman from last night, and they both seem quite agitated. Sarah looked at me questioningly. I nodded and followed her to the lobby, staying far enough back to observe without being immediately noticed. Emma stood near the concierge desk, wearing designer jeans and a Balenciaga top I'd seen her post about on Instagram the week before. Marcus paced nearby. Phone pressed his ear, speaking loudly about lawyers and civil rights violations. When he ended the call, he approached Sarah with aggressive body language. "This is ridiculous," he announced to the lobby. "We're qualified tenants being discriminated against because we're young and successful." "Mr. Chun," Sarah replied calmly, "I've explained our qualification criteria multiple times. Your credit report shows a debt-to-income ratio of 847%. Well above our 40% maximum. You have 7 max credit cards and 3 recent late payments. These aren't discriminatory policies. They're standard financial safeguards." Emma stepped forward, her voice rising. "That's impossible. Marcus is a successful day trader with multiple revenue streams. Your information must be wrong." Sarah pulled out a folder and opened it on the counter. "This is directly from Experian, updated yesterday. Mr. Chin currently owes $247,000 in credit card debt against a reported annual income of $34,000. The lobby fell silent. Marcus's face flushed red as other prospective tenants within earshot turned to stare. "Those numbers are temporary," he said quickly. "I have major trades settling next week that will clear everything up. This is just a cash flow timing issue." I stepped forward from where I'd been observing. "Excuse me," I said to Sarah. I couldn't help but overhear. "I'm James Wick, the building owner. Perhaps I can help clarify our policies." Emma's face went completely white when she saw me. Marcus looked confused, clearly not recognizing the name or understanding the connection. "James." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "You own this building?" I nodded and turned to Marcus. "Mr. Chun, I understand you've been having some difficulty with our application process. Our policies are quite straightforward. We require proof of income at least 4 times the monthly rent, credit scores above 700, and debt-to-income ratios below 40%. Based on what I'm hearing, you don't meet any of these criteria." Marcus's aggressive demeanor evaporated as he processed what Emma had said. "Wait, you know this guy? Emma, what's going on?" Emma opened her mouth, but no words came out. I could see her mind racing, trying to understand how the man she'd left for being financially inadequate was standing in the lobby of the luxury building she desperately wanted to live in, introducing himself as the owner. "Emma and I dated for 8 months, I explained to Marcus. She ended things 2 weeks ago because I wasn't ambitious or successful enough for her lifestyle goals. She felt I wasn't man enough for where she was going in life." Marcus looked between us, confusion deepening. "So you're the IT guy she dumped to upgrade to me?" "Software architect. Actually," I corrected gently, "though I do own 12 rental properties throughout the metro area, including this one." Emma was never interested in discussing my work in detail. I turned to Sarah. "Ms. Rodriguez, could you pull up the ownership documentation from Meridian?" I think Mr. Chun might benefit from understanding our qualification requirements more clearly. Sarah handed me a folder containing property deeds, LLC registration documents, and management agreements. I opened it on the counter, where both Emma and Marcus could see. Wick Property Holdings, LLC. I read aloud. Owner and managing member, James Alexander Wick. Portfolio value $4.2 million, with a meridian representing our flagship property. Marcus stared at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. Emma found her voice, though it came out as a croak. James, I had no idea. You never told me you owned. She gestured helplessly around the lobby with its marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and panoramic city views. Why didn't you say anything? Why did you let me think you were just some regular guy working in tech? Because I want to be loved for who I am, not what I own, I replied. I thought you understood that relationships should be built on character, not financial statements. Apparently, I was wrong about what you valued. Marcus was scrolling through his phone frantically, probably Googling my name or the property company. His face grew paler with each search result. Emma, Marcus said slowly, exactly how much money does your ex-boyfriend have? Emma looked at me helplessly. I don't know, she admitted. He drove a Honda and lived in a regular apartment. He took me to casual restaurants. I thought he was just ordinary. I could see the wheels turning in Marcus's mind as he realized the magnitude of what Emma had walked away from. Sarah cleared her throat diplomatically. Mr. Wick, should I assume you'll be handling this application denial personally? I nodded and turned back to Marcus. Mr. Chun, based on your financial profile, I can in good conscience approve your rental application for any unit in this building. Your debt level suggests you're in serious financial distress, and approving a lease would be irresponsible to both you and our other tenants. Marcus's carefully constructed facade finally cracked completely. Look, I can explain the credit situation. The debt is all strategic, leverage positions that will pay off big when my trades hit. I got Bitcoin investments, forest positions, some NFT plays that are about to explode. This is just temporary while I'm waiting for the markets to turn. I recognize the desperate language of someone who'd gamble with money he couldn't afford to lose. Mr. Chun, I said gently, I've been investing for 15 years. Strategic debt doesn't include 7 max credit cards and missed payments. That's not investing, that's addiction. You need financial counseling, not a luxury apartment. Emma stared at Marcus like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. The expensive clothes, the flashy car, the big talk about success, all of it suddenly looked different when viewed through the lens of $250,000 in credit card debt. Emma, Marcus said desperately, turning to her, you know I'm good for this. Tell him about all the money I spend on us, the places I take you, the lifestyle we have together. Emma looked between us, her face cycling through confusion, embarrassment, and growing realization. Marcus, she said slowly, where does the money come from? For the restaurants, the shopping, the hotels? You've never actually explained your income to me. Marcus's pause lasted too long. Day trading is complicated. He said finally, profits aren't always immediate, but when they hit big. I'm playing a longer game than most people understand. I could see Emma processing this non-answer, comparing it to the very specific financial questions Sarah had been asking about verifiable income and assets. Ms. Stone, I said to Emma, you mentioned wanting to discuss the application denial with the building owner. I'm here now if you have specific concerns about our policies. Emma looked around the lobby, taking in the luxury she'd coveted for weeks, understanding for the first time that the man she dismissed as inadequate had been the gatekeeper to everything she thought she wanted. I don't understand any of this, she said quietly. James, if you could afford all this, why did you live the way you did? Why didn't you tell me? I thought about how to explain 15 years of deliberate choices, of preferring substance over appearance, of wanting to be valued for character rather than bank balances. Because I learned early that money changes how people see you. I wanted someone who could love James the person, not James the portfolio. Marcus's phone rang, and he answered it with obvious relief at the distraction. His side of the conversation was tense and whispered, but I caught enough to understand he was talking to someone about loan payments and deadline extensions. Emma heard it too, and her expression shifted from confusion to concern to something approaching horror. When Marcus ended the call, he tried to reclaim his confident demeanor. "Just some business to handle," he said to Emma. "Nothing that affects us." But Emma was no longer looking at him with admiration. The illusion had been thoroughly shattered, and she was beginning to understand the true scope of her situation. "Ms. Rodriguez," I said to Sarah, "I think we can consider this matter resolved. Mr. Chun and Ms. Stone, I wish you both the best in finding housing that matches your actual financial circumstances." I turned to leave, then paused. "Emma, there are several nice apartments in the Riverside area that might work for your budget. The same neighborhood where I chose to live. Actually," as I walked toward the elevator, I heard Emma call my name. I turned back to see her standing alone. Marcus had disappeared, probably taking a call from another creditor. "James, could we talk sometime? I think I made a mistake." I looked at her for a long moment, seeing not the confident woman who declared me insufficient 2 weeks ago, but someone who was just beginning to understand the difference between appearance and reality. "Emma," I said carefully, "I hope you find what you're looking for, but I've already found someone who values the same things I do." It was true. Sarah Mitchell, the architect I had met through a property development project, had been asking me to coffee for weeks. She knew about my investments because they were professionally relevant, but had fallen for my terrible jokes and genuine interest in her sustainable design work. 6 months later, I stood in the penthouse unit of the Meridian, the same apartment Emma had desperately wanted to rent. Sarah was reviewing blueprints for our next development project, her red hair catching the afternoon light, streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. We'd been living together for 3 months, and she still teased me about my Honda Civic and preference for neighborhood restaurants over trendy hotspots. "The structural engineering looks solid," Sarah said, pointing to her drawings. "But are you sure you want to build affordable housing when luxury rentals are so much more profitable?" I smiled and pulled her close. "Profit isn't everything. Sometimes you build what the community needs, not what makes the most money." She kissed me softly. "This is why I fell for you, you know. Not the portfolio, just you." Through the window, I could see the downtown area where Emma worked, where Marcus had probably moved back in with roommates after his financial collapse became undeniable. I'd heard from David Kim that Marcus had filed for bankruptcy and Emma had moved back in with her parents, both of them casualties of a lifestyle built on borrowed money and borrowed time. My phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Emma had sent a connection request with a message. "James, I hope you're well. I learned a lot from our experience together and wanted to thank you for handling everything with such grace. I've started seeing a therapist about my relationship with money and materialism. I'm working on becoming the kind of person who values character over appearances. I hope we could be friends someday." I showed the message to Sarah, who read it thoughtfully. "That took courage to send," she said. "Are you going to respond?" I considered it. Emma had lost her dream apartment, her wealthy boyfriend, and her illusions about easy money, but maybe she gained something more valuable: self-awareness. "I think I will," I said. "Everyone deserves a chance to grow." That evening, as Sarah and I walked through Riverside to our favorite pizza place, the same route I'd taken countless times alone, I thought about the strange path that had led me here. Emma's rejection had stung initially, but had also freed me to find someone who appreciated authenticity over affluence. Sometimes being dismissed by the wrong person leads you directly to the right one. "Penny for your thoughts," Sarah said, squeezing my hand. I smiled and kissed her forehead, just thinking about how sometimes the best thing someone can do is show you exactly who they are. She laughed. "And sometimes the best thing you can do is be exactly who you are, Honda Civic and all." The next morning, I replied Emma's LinkedIn message with a simple note. "Growth takes courage. I'm proud of you for choosing it. We all deserve partners who love us for who we are, not what we can provide. Best wishes on your journey." Then I closed my laptop, grabbed my keys to the Honda Civic, and headed to work, exactly the same man I'd been when Emma declared me insufficient, just with a better understanding of my own worth.